My name's Angelo, and welcome to We Want Picks. This is the only channel dedicated to UFC fight picks and DraftKings lineups run by MMA insiders and professional fighters. Every week, I join Dan Kramer and Nick Newell, two longtime professional fighters that have fought at the highest levels on the planet, as well as Jacob Lyons, a skinny kid from Indiana. So join us every single week for our full fight card breakdowns, our individual fight card breakdowns, our betting guide, and our DraftKings lineups. Next up at UFC on ABC2, we have Hunter Azure versus Jack Shore. Jack Shore is one of the slickest, most hyped grapplers in this division right now. And Hunter Azure is just a gritty, old school wrestler. I love this. I'm like really looking forward to this fight, honestly. So I'm going to go right to you, Nick. You're a wrestler and you're a grappler. What are your thoughts here? How do you see this going?
This is the biggest question mark fight of the night. I think that Jack Shore is the more dynamic, diverse striker, but really it always comes down to his wrestling. So he ends a lot of the combos with shots. He shoots often. He shoots early. And I just don't think he has the wrestling to really beat Hunter Azure, who's very, very good wrestler. You look at Azure getting knocked out by Kelleher, and things happen in fights. That was not to say it wouldn't happen again or anything like that, but that was a bad style matchup. He didn't want to shoot on him because he was afraid of getting caught in a guillotine, and Kelleher was just game and caught him. So I think that's one of the reasons why he's such a big underdog, especially with Jack Shore being undefeated. But I'm actually going to go with Hunter Azure in this fight. I'm picking a lot of underdogs for this card. But I think that Hunter Azure wins this fight. I think it's by decision, and I don't think it's dominant. So I think his wrestling will be the difference maker, but there'll be a lot of scrambles, a lot of pushing against the wall, Jack Shore getting up, stuff like that. So I'm gonna pick Azure. I think it will be close, and I'm not putting my lineup.
Yeah, I completely agree with literally everything you just said. I'm also going with Hunter Azure. I think the wrestling is the difference here. So Jack Shore is a phenomenal grappler, especially in MMA. He's shown it, he uses it, and he's just so tricky. But Hunter Azure is such a good wrestler with such good control. He can dictate what he wants to do. And yes, there will be scrambles, and I'm just hoping those high hip wrestlers, he'll win those scrambles and he'll avoid getting caught in something. You, Nick, specifically are a wrestler, and you have more first round submissions than anybody I can think of, and you catch people in scrambles. So I'm hoping that's not what happens to Hunter Azure, but I do think Hunter Azure gets it done. This is a razor thin fight. I think the wrestling beats the grappling. But Dan, I'll go to you. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, this is one that when I was watching it too, I was like, man, I don't know. Like, Hunter Azure, I'm like watching tape and I'm like, he's going to negate the wrestling of Shore. I think I'm like, that's going to be a wash. So then it goes to the striking, and they're both pretty good strikers too. A lot of people I was reading were saying that Shore is significantly better striking. Like from the tape I watched, I didn't really see that. I will say Shore, to your point, Angelo, probably has the edge with catching a submission. He's definitely trickier in terms of submissions and in the scrambles and things like that. So I think this is going to be like a dead even fight other than that one area. So I guess I'll give the slight edge to Shore, but I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised seeing Azure going the other way. And honestly, for $7,500, he's probably a value in DraftKings. But to Nick's point, I don't know how many points he's going to score. So this is a tough one to call. My pick, I'm going to go with Shore. But from a betting standpoint, I don't know that I would go with him. And from a DraftKings standpoint, I definitely am not going with him. So I'm going to try to do a little bit more research during the week, because the fights I saw, I'm like, this is dead even in the wrestling, the striking, and then the only big difference will be if Shore can catch a submission.
Yeah, and you mentioned Hunter Azure. You and Nick both mentioned Hunter Azure. If he wins, it'll be the wrestling. It'll hold him down, avoid the submissions, and win a decision. And in DraftKings, wrestlers do fairly well because they score 5 points for a takedown, and then they get control time. With that being said, Jack Shore if he gets taken down, he's going to be working for, position and sweeps and things like that. He's not going to be working to stand back up.
Yeah.
So if he was working to stand back up to his feet, you may get another 5 points out of Hunter if he gets another takedown. In this case, I think when Hunter takes down Jack Shore will say, okay, I'm on the ground. I don't want to be on my back. Let me work for a sweep. Let me create a scramble, but he's not going to get back up to his feet. So you're not going to get those repeat takedown points. So I sort of agree with that analysis where Hunter's probably not going to score a ton of points because you're not going to get the 5 for a takedown, the 5 for a takedown, the 5 for a takedown over and over. But Jacob, what are your thoughts here? How do you see this going? You going with the edge in the wrestling or the edge in the grappling?
Yeah, you guys nailed it. Jack Shore, I think, should win this fight. I think Jack Shore is the better fighter overall. But when I look at these two guys, I'm the same thing you guys do. I see Hunter and I'm like, man, can he wrestle? He's a great wrestler. And this is the difference I see between the two of them. Jack Shore grapples to submit and Hunter grapples to, destroy you. The ground and pound, it's elbows. So if there's a weird scramble, when Jack Shore's in position, he's just trying to be, nice and technical, trying to submit you. And Hunter, if he gets on top, it's gonna be bad news for Jack Shore. So I think Jack Shore should win this. He's 13-0. He was 12-0 as an amateur as well. So that's like 47-0 or something like that. And but I'm going with Hunter in this. I just think just because he's just nastier. I honestly think that it just comes down to just being a nastier grappler that he's going to end up on top and TKO him with some elbows.
Yeah, it'll be a fun one. I'm honestly looking for. There's actually a good amount of,
and I hope that they wrestle, because a lot of times you get this matchup and it's just they just stand and stare at each other. They try and strike. They're both scared of each other's wrestling and grappling. So I hope that they get down to the ground.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Slugfest. Sometimes when the wrestling cancels out, they end up just bombing on it.
And Hunter's got the power advantage on that aspect. I think so. If they start striking.
Yeah, it'll be fun. I genuinely am looking forward to this fight of all the fights on the card. This is one of the top 3 that I'm looking forward to. Before you go, check out the description below. In there, we have links to our Facebook, our Twitter, our Instagram, and more importantly, to our DraftKings League. Check out the league, join the league, participate in the contests, and as we get going and as you start winning, we're going to start handing out gift cards and participating and doing things like that. So check those out. Every week, there are drops on every fight card. So make sure you check out this channel and our social media on Saturday before the fights start so that you have our most updated lineups and picks.